The teachings of Rabbi Ephraim Sprecher, Dean of Students at Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion, Jerusalem.
Mishpatim asher tosim lifneihem. These are the judgments that you should place in front of them. The whole Parshat begins with a litany of human misery. Poverty, slavery, orphans, widows, people that are afflicted and abused. What's going on over here? Why is there so much human tragedy in the world? Says the Zohar, the Eila Mishpatim, Exodus 21:1. The Eila HaMishpatim, the word Mishpat in Hebrew means judgment or justice. The Eila, and these human tragedies, HaMishpatim, that's the way God judges. There's so much suffering in the world because the answer is reincarnation, says the Zohar. The Eila, and these human sufferings, HaMishpatim, that's part of God's judgment. We're not here the first time. We've been here before. There are many tikkunim we have to make, and therefore a person is born for his problems. You can't say, why me? Just like my fingerprints are tailor-made and unique for me, so is our problems. And anyone that you meet, there are no chance encounters. Any person that you meet, that means, David, we have unfinished business. Deja vu, all over again. So ve'elam mishpatim, any person that you meet, any problem that you have, is a result of unfinished business in a previous lifetime. So this is how the Zohar explains why the Parsha seems to be a whole catalog of all human misery and human sufferings, orphans, widows, people that are afflicted, poverty-stricken, slavery. The Parsha begins off with a person that is a slave, a person that's in a slave. So what has that got to do with the Ten Commandments? We know when the two Parshas follow each other, there has to be a strong connection. The last of the Ten Commandments that we read, it says you should not desire or take advantage of anything that belongs to your friend. So you might think that that's a friend in your social circles. What about a slave? The lowest rung on society. So the Parsha, right after the Ten Commandments, begins with the Parsha of Avodim. Even an Evet is your friend. Even you have to treat him as a peer, even though you're way up there in the social ladder, and he's just a lowly slave. He's part of Vayecha. So this connects Bainish with the Ten Commandments. The last of the Ten Commandments, Vayecha, even an Evet, he is your friend, and he has to be treated with respect and with dignity, even though you're way up there and he is way down on the social ladder. So an Evet Ivri, the Talmud says something amazing. Whoever buys an Evet Ivri is like he buys a master for himself. Isn't that strange? If you're eating steak for dinner, you cannot give your Evet Ivri sardines. If you're eating sardines, fine. But if you are eating steak, he cannot be fed sardines. You have to treat him as a member of your family. But it's interesting, why begin? The whole Parsha here is to do kindness to a fellow human being. If you look at the Parsha, all the mitzvahs of charity, of kindness, of help, not to take advantage of another person. So why begin Dafka with an Evet Ivri? I mean, why Dafka? In Jewish law, how does a person become an Evet Ivri? There are two ways. Either he steals. Person steals, he has to pay back double. Let's say if he doesn't have the money to pay back, what happens to him? Beis Din sells him into slavery to pay off what? His debts. So why does the Torah begin right after the Ten Commandments with a ganef? This guy's a ganef. That's why he got himself in this predicament. He stole, he couldn't afford to pay back. So therefore, so why begin right after Ten Commandments with dealing his plight? Why not with the widow, with the orphan? The whole Parsha speaks about widow, orphan, helping people that are what? Down and out. So why Dafka begin with a ganef? That's how he got himself into predicament in the first place. The answer is, the Talmud, the Torah tells us, we are called God's children. We're God's children. If a parent has many children, and they're all beseder. There's one child that's not beseder. Where does the parents focus and attention on? The child that's not beseder. He's also my child. If a child is beseder, he can take care of himself. But a parent has many children, and one is not beseder, so the parents are constantly worried about that child. God is our Father, right? He calls us His children. So therefore, the Parsha opens up with a ganef. That's how he got himself to be a slave. Because Baruch Hu is concerned, he's also my child. Treat him with respect and dignity. He's a ganef. He can't pay back. He sold himself into slavery. Bezdin sold him. He's trying to make amends. Give him a chance. Give him a chance to rehabilitate himself. And therefore, the Torah begins dafke with the Parsha of what? Of an Evet Ivri. Dafke with the Parsha of an Evet Ivri. So he works 6 years, and the 7th year he goes free. If he refuses after 6 years to go free, what happens? The master has to drill a hole in his ear. Say what? Not in his head, in his ear. And then he remains a slave until what? Yovel, until the Jubilee. So Rashi quotes the Midrash, why does he have to have his ear drilled? Why? So the Medrash says, the ear that heard at Har Sinai Lo Tignov, how did he become an Evet? He stole and he couldn't what? Pay back, so he sold into slavery. But we heard the Torah, the 10 Commandments, that says, do not steal. The ear that heard, do not steal. And he went and he stole, so he has to have his ear drilled. But when do they drill the ear? Moshe, when? Only after 6 years. But if it's a punishment for disobeying the 10 Commandments, don't steal, you should have had his ear drilled when?
At the beginning.
The beginning. Billah, that's the question. Why delay drilling his ear for 6 years? He stole, that's why he became an Evet, he couldn't pay back. So have his ear drilled from the get-go. Why wait 6 years?
Reminded that he can't be a slave for...
No, so why not? No, it says lo tignov. So that he knew, he should have known the beginning of his slavery. Why wait 6 years? And what's the message for us? We have no slaves today. What is the message for us? The message is, the Torah does not believe in piling on. Anybody play football here? You get a penalty for piling on. When the guy's down, you don't jump on him. This guy stole, he couldn't pay back. It's a terrible humiliation. Cherpa v'busha, to be caught as a thief, not to be able to pay, be sold as slavery. That's punishment enough. The Torah doesn't believe in piling on. But if after 6 years he says, Ahavti et Adoni, lo eitzeh chofshi, I love it here. The master takes care of me, a part of the family, I don't want to go free. So he's showing that it's no humiliation for him to be an Evet. He's showing there's no cherpa v'busha. So now he has to get punished. The first punishment maybe was enough to be sold into slavery. But if he says he likes it here, he doesn't want to go free, so he's showing retroactively that the punishment was no punishment. So now he has to get his ear drilled. Okay? That's why we wait, 6 years. Then the Torah goes on and mentions, if you take a look at Exodus 21, something very strange here. We know when there are 2 psukim next door, there have to be a great connection. Please look at Exodus 21, verse 16 and 17. What page would that be?
Page 421.
How?
Page 421.
421.
It says, if someone kidnaps somebody, sells him into slavery, he's chayiv mitah. And the very next pasuk says, if someone curses a parent, he's chayiv mitah. Moshe, my English mitah, it's Har Sinai. When the 2 psukim next door, there have to be a very strong what?
Connection.
What does kidnapping got to do with cursing a parent? Why throw them together? There's a klal gadol, David. When there are 2 verses in the Torah next door, there has to be a very strong connection. What the heck does kidnapping got to do with what? Cursing a parent. Why are they next door in the Torah? Uri Zohar. He was bigger than Johnny Carson. He became this great Baal Tshuva.
Uri Zohar.
This tzaddik.
Unbelievable.
He wrote a book. After he became a Baal Tshuva, he wrote a book. You know what the book is called?
Uri Zohar.
We Were Kidnapped.
Absolutely.
That's what he called this book. We were robbed. We were kidnapped. He grew up totally sick. He didn't know what it means to be a Jew. He had a lot of anger against his parents. He didn't know. We were kidnapped. They kidnapped our heritage from us by not giving us a Jewish education. So a person might think, if his parents kidnapped his Jewish heritage, maybe parents like that, you're allowed to curse. Torah says no. Even if your parents kidnapped your heritage, and you grew up totally secular, you're still not allowed to curse them, and you still owe them honor. They're still your parents. They brought you into the world. You wouldn't have become a Baal Tshuva if they didn't bring you into the world. So you owe your parents, even if they did kidnap and rob your heritage, there's still a prohibition to what? To curse them, or to what? Not to respect them. And therefore, these two psukim are what? Next door. Isn't that an amazing idea? Wow. Now, in Exodus 21:26, if someone beats up his Evet Kanani, an Evet Kanani, a Gentile slave, doesn't go free after 6 years. A Gentile slave remains in bondage forever. But there's an exception. If the master, in Exodus 21:26, anybody want to read that? Exodus 21:26.
The man shall strike the eye of his slave or the eye of his maidservant and destroy it. He shall set him free, return for his eye.
This is speaking about a Gentile slave. If the master knocks out an eye or a tooth or any major organ, he destroys it, then,
I'd rather lose a tooth than an eye.
right, then the slave goes free. You getting this? Bill, we ain't got no slaves today. And we know that Torah is GPS, God's personal system for the year 2020. So what am I reading over here? You get a question on the table? Moshe. Fasten your seatbelts for the answer. There's no slaves today. The Talmud in Brochot, page 5, makes an amazing statement. How do you know if a person, Le'aleinu, suffers Yisurim? A person suffers, is afflicted. How do I know that he goes free from sin? How do I know that his sin leaves him? It frees him. The suffering frees him. How do I know? The Talmud points to this pasuk. Madoch, an Evet, who only suffers in one limb, goes free. He goes free. It says Chavshi. Did you buy a Chavshi this month? Chavshi. A person that suffers not just in one limb, but his entire body, he's never sick and afflicted, certainly goes free. Free from what? Sin. So that's what the Talmud knows, that a person that suffers, he is freed from his sin and guilt. Based on this parsha of the Evet Kanani. It's amazing. That a person is afflicted, this atones and frees him from his sin and guilt. And we learn this from this pasuk, Exodus 21, verse 26. Where do you learn out that Habol lahargacha hashkem lahargo? If someone is out to kill you, turn the other cheek, that's the wrong religion. Wrong religion. Exodus 22:1. We know, Golda, that the Parsha of the week always speaks to what?
Current events.
Current events. I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. Exodus 22:1. If Hamas is tunneling under your home, Machteres, they're building tunnels under your home. Why? They want to give you a candy bar, right? They're tunneling under your home, it says here. So what do? You bomb empty buildings, Billah. What are you supposed to do? The Torah says you shall strike him and kill him, ein loy damim. There is no blood on your hands. Someone is tunneling under your home or into your territory with the intention of what? Kidnapping or killing you. You're supposed to kill him, not bomb empty buildings. Ein loy damim. You have no blood on your hands. So the Talmud learns from here. Habo lahargacha, hashkem lahargo. If someone is tunneling under your home, you know, by the Gaza border, they can actually hear them hammering under the ground. Hello? They can actually hear them tunneling. And Rashi gives another interpretation. It's like you killed a dead person. Someone is threatening your life. Ein loy damim doesn't only mean you have no blood on your hands. The person that you killed. You ever see the movie Dead Men Walking? I think Humphrey Bogart, dead man. He's a dead man. If someone is threatening you, shooting rockets or balloons attached with bombs, his life is forfeit. Why doesn't our defense minister read the Parsha of the week? He's religious. Bennett, I hope you're listening. Someone is sending balloons, bombs attached with booby trap. They land in kindergarten yards, so the little kids should pick it up and blow up. It hasn't happened. It's a great miracle. They send these colorful balloons attached with time bombs. And where did they direct it? To kindergarten yards. The little kids, it's a miracle that no kid was maimed or killed. So the Torah says clearly, if you kill the perpetrator, it's like you killed a dead person. If he's threatening you, ein loy damim, not only do you have no blood on your hands, the person that you killed is like what? He's a walking zombie. Billah, this week's Parsha. So let's hope that the defense minister goes over the Parsha this week. Let's hope he does that. We should send him a friendly email. Yehuda, maybe we can, right? It's pretty amazing, right? Exodus 22:30. It says, V'anshe Kodesh, what page would that be? Exodus 22:30. V'anshe Kodesh tiyunli, you shall be holy people to me. Don't eat non-kosher food. Throw it to the dogs. What is this? We have one verse with many ideas, Daniel. There has to be what? What does holy people got to do with eating kosher? And by the way, giving the treifa to the dogs. So the Kotzker Rebbe has an amazing insight. But you got to look at the Hebrew. See Pasuk Lamed? Va'anshe kodesh tiyunli. It's good to be kodesh. But more important than being kodesh, first you have to be what?
Mensch.
A mensch. Isn't that amazing? Va'anshe kodesh. Before you roll your eyes and be holy, make sure you're a decent, kind, caring, courteous human being.
Right.
That comes before being holy. The Kotzker Rebbe, a lot of people don't remember that.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, they tell a person to tell a lady sit in the back of the bus, right? Get up, the seat is for men. That's being holy? I don't know. That's not being a mensch. That's not being a mensch. You should sit in the back of the bus. What are you telling a lady to sit? Va'anshe kodesh. Before being holy, make sure you're a mensch first. The Kotzker Rebbe was very Haredi, he said that. Derech eretz kodma laTorah. And then it says, do not eat non-kosher food. So what does it got to being holy, Billah? The Torah teaches you are what you eat.
Exactly.
Isn't that amazing? The Torah teaches you are what you eat. So one of the ways to attain Kiddusha is to eat a kosher salami sandwich. I'm not making this up, or a kosher hot dog. I'm not making this up. But it said, what should you do with non-kosher food? You should give it to the dogs. Non-kosher food, the Torah says you should give it to the dogs. Okay. Why dogs? So Rashi says, because when we left Egypt, there was a plague raging. And animals feel when there's a plague, when the Malach HaMavis is in town, the animals, especially dogs, howl like crazy. They can sense, even though they can sense something beyond the human eye they can see. So the Torah tells us that during the Exodus, when the plague was raging, no dog barked. No pregnant woman miscarried. No Jew was frightened. The dogs refrained from barking, which is against their nature, because they usually howl when there's a plague raging, like in China now, right? The dogs are howling. That they didn't howl, so Kodesh Baruch Hu says, we owe them schar. So therefore, you're supposed to give them Alpo dog food. Bill, are you getting this? Let's think a little bit. The dog knows why you're giving him the tray for meat. Does he know that 3,333 years ago, his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaddy Spot didn't bark when we left Egypt?
That was Lassie.
A lassie. The lassie knows why she's getting the tray for meat. Or Rin Tin Tin. Remember? No? Rin Tin Tin. I'm dating myself. Esther, what's going on? What's the message? The answer is expressing gratitude is not for the dog. The dog doesn't know. The dog doesn't care. In order to develop my character trait, in order to perfect my neshama for eternity, I must express gratitude. It's not for the dog. He doesn't know. He doesn't care. But my nefesh, my character trait, in order to develop properly and fully for eternity, I must express gratitude and appreciation to anybody or anything that I benefit from. So if that's for a dog who doesn't care, doesn't know, then achas kama kama, a person does you a favor. How much more do you have to express verbal thank you? Gratitude and appreciation. In fact, the whole Jewish religion, says the Sefer Chinuch, Beinu B'chai, the whole Jewish religion rests on which amud? Hakorat Hatov. Expressing gratitude and appreciation to what? To someone that does good to you. Why Moshe couldn't strike the river? Why couldn't Moshe strike the river? Because the river protected him when he was a baby in the basket. The river knows who's striking it. It's not for the river. Moshe Rabbeinu's character, in order to develop fully, cannot strike something that he gained from. It's not the river, it's not the dog. It's for my neshama. And certainly when a human being does you a favor, some people just can't say thank you. They just can't say thank you. But that's the ikar of Judaism, to express verbal expression of gratitude and appreciation to someone that's good to you. Therefore in Hebrew the word modeh. Modeh ani lefanecha. What is modeh ani lefanecha? Modeh means thank you, but modeh also means what? Admit. Daniel, why in Hebrew, when you have two different meanings of the same word, it has to be what?
Esther.
When you thank somebody, you admit that you couldn't have done it without him. Human beings don't like to feel indebted. They don't like to feel that you helped me and I couldn't do without you. But that's the midah of Hakoras Hatov. Modeh, Avi, means to admit. It means to thank. Because when you thank somebody, you admit that you needed him. And therefore you owe him gratitude. Not for him. My neshama needs that to develop my tikkun hanefesh. And that's what the Torah teaches over here. That's what the Torah teaches over here. Now, take a look at Exodus 23:5. Anybody will read that in English?
If you see the donkey of someone you hate crouching under its burden, would you refrain from helping him? You should help repeatedly with him.
Are you allowed to hate somebody? The Torah, Bill, lives in the real world. The Torah does not live in ivory towers. The Torah knows that people have fights and they hate each other. But the Torah is giving you a way to get rid of that hatred. Please hear me well. Here you have to look at Onkelos. When you see Kisera Chamor Sanach, Ozoiv Tazov Imo. Ozoiv Tazov Imo. What does Ozoiv Tazov Imo mean? It says in Genesis 1, Al ken yazov ishet obvis imoy bedavak beishtay. The same word, Ozoiv Tazov, which English translates over here, what? Help, Ozoiv Tazov. What do they translate? Verse 5.
You should help. See the donkey you hate crouching, you're helping him.
Help him. So the word they translate help doesn't mean help. It's the same word, Moshe, in Bereshis. The Torah says, Yazov ish es oviv es imoi. A person should what? Leave his father and mother and what? Become attached to his wife. So the word azov tazov doesn't mean help. Yazov ish, it means to what? To leave. So you can't always trust the English. So let's read it together. If you see your enemy having a problem, Ozoiv tazoiv imoy, leave with him. Unkelos translate mishbak tishbok. The same way Unkelos translates in Genesis 1, a person yazov, a person should leave his parents and attach himself to his wife. So over here, Unkelos says the same word, Ozoiv tazoiv masbig, leave. What the heck is Unkelos talking about? If you hate somebody, you have a grudge. If you want to leave the hatred behind, how do you do that? By helping him. If you help a person, the hatred and the grudge will leave you. Isn't that an incredible idea? You have a grudge against somebody, you hate somebody. Call him up and take him out for lunch.
Yeah.
And then you see that slowly but surely the hatred will what? Leave. Before Sigmund Freud, the Torah Kadosh, everything is in the Torah. Right? We have a hatred and a grudge against somebody, but the Torah is teaching if you do favors for somebody, why do parents love their children so much? Even though the kid is so obnoxious. Why do they love their kid so much? Because they're constantly giving. So human nature, when you keep giving to somebody, the hatred and grudge you have against that person will leave. So the Torah is telling you psychology, ozav tazav. That's what ozav tazav means, to help. And ozav tazav also means what? Leave. Why is it the same word, Chanoch? I just told you. Because when you help somebody, even an enemy, the hatred and the grudge and the ill feelings will leave you.
Goes away.
Isn't that? Try it, it works.
It will.
I'm telling you, it works.
I know.
It's just amazing. The same word, a person should leave his parents and attach to his wife, the same word, Yazov. Isn't that amazing? Moshe, people spend thousands of shekels on psychiatrists, right? They just read the Torah.
Even your friend needs help and your enemy needs help.
Who's your help? Who are you supposed to help? Your enemy first.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that?
That's a good idea.
Because by helping him, you're turning an enemy into a friend. Beinish brought up, he's a Talmud Chacham, Beinish. If your enemy and your friend need help, who should you help first? Your enemy. Why, Bila? Because by helping him, you're helping yourself. You're getting rid of the hatred that you have for him. So you're helping yourself too. And you are changing an enemy into what? A friend. So therefore you have to help your enemy first. I don't mean Abu Mamzer. I'm talking about a Jewish enemy. Not Abu Mamzer. I'm talking about a Jewish enemy, right? From Meretz or whatever, you know. J Street. He's still a fellow Jew. And you're not allowed to hate him. So, you know, take him out for lunch, and even though, don't talk politics. Talk about the weather, right? Don't talk about Trump.
What
Right?
about a Jewish person who is doing all kinds of things and taking advantage of using you for money or for
No, you're not allowed to be taken advantage of. We're talking, but not he's taking advantage. You're supposed to protect yourself, right? You're not supposed to take abuse. So if a guy's abusing you, don't associate with him. Don't hate him, just don't associate with him. That's what I mean, right? But if you have an argument with somebody and you grudge, you feel that he did something to you.
So Rabbi, when you hate somebody, it's free rent in your head.
Sinat chinam. What is very good? What does sinat chinam mean? Hatred for free. What does that mean?
Waste.
Sinat chinam.
Free.
There's no such thing as free hatred or hatred for free. It means sinat chinam literally means free hatred. Someone that you don't like is living inside your headspace for free. He's not paying you any rent.
Exactly.
You're getting a bad hair day. You're getting ulcers. Why do you let a guy that you can't stand live inside your head rent free? Expel him. How do you evict him? Billa, how do you evict him? Stop hating him.
Stop hating.
And try to talk to him. Why are you doing this to me? Right? Can we talk it out? A lot of times, a lot of hatred and arguments is total misunderstanding. A lot of times it's just a total misunderstanding. And people don't speak for years. They don't even remember what the argument was about. David, I know people like that. Yeah. For years they don't even remember what it's all about. It's a shtuyot. So you pour out your hatred from your heart, and therefore, there's a pasuk in Eicha. Shivchi kamayim libech. Jeremiah says in Eicha, Shivchi kamayim libech. Pour out your heart like water. What does Lamentations mean? Shivchi kamayim libech. Pour out your heart like water. What does that mean? So this is the same idea. Pour out the hate from your heart, just like water, always flowing and washes out. If you get rid of the hatred from your heart, it's like water. You're being cleansed. It's like water. It's washing out your hatred. And you're doing yourself a favor. You're not having a bad hair day anymore. You're not obsessed with the guy. Pretty amazing, huh? Here the Torah says, do not oppress a ger. This is the most repeated, and you're allowed to oppress someone who's not a ger. Huh? Hello? So the Gemara B'Metzia 59 and the Rambam says, if you oppress a regular person, you have one Avera. If you oppress a ger, you get 36 Averas. Buy one, get 36. What's the kingfish of all mitzvahs in the Torah? The most repeated mitzvah of all, you would say Shabbat, no? Yom Kippur, Bris Milah, Avi. What's the most repeated mitzvah in the Torah? V'haftam et ger lo tilchatz. Love the ger, don't oppress and upset him. It's repeated 36 times in a positive and negative. Why? Because it's human nature to discriminate against the ger. Who are you? Now you are a Rebbitzin. I remember you were a go-go dancer in Las Vegas nightclub. Now you're a Rebbitzin.
Like the movie yesterday.
Huh?
Like the movie yesterday.
Now you're an Akoilal guy. You used to be a disco boy in Saturday Night Fever. Now you're joining a Akoilal. A guy says that to a ger, he gets 36 Averas. Wow. And if you're kind to a ger, you get 36 mitzvahs. Wow. So every time you're nice to a ger, if you're married to a ger, you give her a kiss and buy her flowers, buy one, get 36. That's a bargain. How do you say a vilda mitzia in English? A vilda mitzia? How do you say that in English? A vilda. How do you say vilda? That's pretty amazing, right? But buy one, get 36, David, eh? So, but mitzvah tzrichas kavana, Avi, mitzvah tzrichas kavana. You have to have kavana. We create our own reality. By having kavana, I'm getting 36 mitzvahs, but you got to think about it. And then it becomes real for us. Mitzvah tzrichas kavana. Pretty incredible. Isn't that amazing? Then, if you look at Exodus 24:1, where are those magic words, Nasav and Nishma, written?
Here.
People think it's written in the Parshat of the Ten Commandments.
Page
But
441.
It's 441. Exodus 24:1. It says, to Moshe, God said, come up to God. Exodus 24:1. Rashi wonders, this Parsha don't belong here. And they said the magic words, Nasav and Nishma here. In Exodus 24:7, Billah. You see that? Exodus 24:7.
He took the book of the covenant and we'll read it to the earshot of the people, and they said, everything that Hashem has spoken, we will do and we will obey.
Those magic words were not said in this Parsha. They were said last week. Rashi wonders. Rashi says, Ein mugda mucha b'Torah. How do you say that in English? The Torah is not written in chronological order. Because the Torah is above time. The Torah is God's mind. Time is something, a human invention. But God and the Torah are above time. So to God, past, present, and future are what? The same. Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's essential name. Yud Kei Vav Kei, Haya. What does Haya mean?
Was.
Hoveh, V'yeh. It's all the same. So that's the simple answer. That's so simple. That's the answer, that the Torah is not written in chronological order. But there still has to be a why. Why dafke here? Okay. But there has to be, why dafke? Take this parsha that was said last week in Yisro, those famous words, Nasa v'nishma, and come up to God. You detach them and you put them over here. So Rav Soloveitchik has an incredible insight. Fasten your seatbelts. If you want to really come up to God and really say Nasa v'nishma, first you have to learn the laws of Mishpatim. What does Mishpatim mean? Ben Adam l'chaveroi, how to treat a person that's down and out, a slave, poverty-struck, widow, orphan, the miskenim. If you treat people that are down on their luck properly and with courtesy and chesed, that's the way to say Nasa v'nishma. Otherwise, you're gebluffed. You're the great Rav Soloveitchik. If you want to really go up to God and say Nasa v'nishma, first you have to be a Mishpatim person. First learn the laws of Mishpatim, how to treat an Eved, a Ger, a Yasam, a Mana, Oni ve'Evyoin. And if you're kind to them, and you treat them with chesed, that's the way to come up to God. Unlike the other religion, how are you holy? You close yourself off in a monastery, right? And you chant all day. Judaism, no. You interact with people that need your help.
Treat them right.
And treat them with courtesy and chesed. That's the way to come up to Hashem. What an amazing idea. And therefore this parsha, which was said in Yisro, is detached and put after Mishpatim, says the great Rav Soloveitchik. First learn the laws of Mishpatim and Adam Mechaveroi. And when you learn that, then you're ready, Alei El Hashem. Then you're ready to what? Come up to God and say those magic words, Nasa v'nishma. What does Nasa mean? We will do. V'nishma means we will what? Hear. But shouldn't have said the other way around. First, David should have said what? We'll listen, and then we'll think about it. Right? So why did we say we'll do before what? We will hear. What's the message? And those are magic words. The Talmud says that's angels talk like that. How could you do something you didn't even what? Hear it. So if I wouldn't have watched the program Father Knows Best, maybe I wouldn't know. See, my father was upset with me that I watched a lot of television. But now he's happy with me in Olam Haba. Because the show Father Knows Best, that's Judaism. My loving parent, if he tells me to do something, I don't have to ask him why. If he's asking me to do something, it must be for what? My own good. Because he's my loving parent and he loves me more than I can ever know. A human parent. What about the divine parent? So Nasa v'nishma, since God is my loving parent, of course whatever he tells me to do is not for his sake, it's for my sake. And therefore I'll do it, what? Before even hearing it. Because it's all for my benefit. Isn't that an amazing idea? The Torah actually says that. God says, do the mitzvot. It's a pasuk in Deuteronomy. Do the mitzvahs. It's not, you're not doing me a favor, Hashem said. It's for you. Every time you do a mitzvah, you are buying yourself a seat in eternity. It's for your eternal good. So therefore, Nasa will do it. V'nishma. Hashem, Father knows best. It's all for our own good. Whatever we do, we're doing for ourselves. You help somebody, who are you helping more? No? You're helping yourself, right? People are depressed. Go to the hospital and feed the patients. You won't be depressed. People having a bad hair day. Do a kindness for somebody. Who are you helping the most? Yourself. It's unbelievable. It's so true. When you do for someone else, you do for yourself. Therefore, the word Natan in Hebrew. Natan means to give. How's Natan spelled? Nun, Taf, Nun. Golda, how is that called in English? Palindrome. Thank you. Natan, please hear me. To give of yourself is spelled nun, tough nun. Why is that a palindrome? Because when you give to others, who are you giving to? Yourself. Whatever we do only for ourselves. That's what Hashem is teaching us. So Nasa before Nishma. You're helping yourself the most. Psychologically, mentally, and most important, eternally. What's another palindrome? David. Dalit, Vav, Dalit. David is a palindrome. The prophet that anointed, well, not the prophet of not that anointed David, that was Shmuel, but the prophet who prophesies that David will be the Mashiach, his name is Natan. Please hear me on this. Shmuel anointed David, but he didn't say Mashiach. The prophet that proclaims David and his seed Mashiach is the prophet Natan. Again, so David is a palindrome. Natan, the prophet who said that he's going to be the Mashiach in God's name, is a palindrome, Natan. And David's father, Yishai. Ooh, can this be a coinky dinky, Golda? Yishai. The Goyim say Jesse, but it's Yishai. The father of the Mashiach, his name also happens to be what? Palindrome. Coinky dinky? So what's going on over here? Let's think. Mashiach and the Melech, right? They're going to come to save us, right? To help us. But by saving and helping us, who are they actually helping and saving? Themselves. So Natan, Yishai, and David, the messianic dynasty and the prophet of there is palindrome. Because what we give to others, when we help others and we save others, we are primarily saving and redeeming. Beautiful, Avi.
Rabbi.
Yishai, I can tell your father, he will enjoy this, your father, Elliot. Yishai, David, and Natan. Natan is the David, is the prophet that told David he'll be the Mashiach. And Yishai is his father, and the name David, they're all palindromes. When you give, help, and save others, you're giving, helping, and saving yourself. David, isn't that amazing? And therefore the Talmud says, when you give a poor person a donation, you should tell him thank you. You hear what I said?
Yeah.
I'm making this up. 1 second. How do we know that? In the book of Ruth, Ruth comes back with a lot of goodies that Boaz gave her. Naomi asked her, give me the name of the man that did all this chesed for you. He gave you all these goodies. So you look at the Megillah, she says, the name of the man that I did chesed for him, his name is Boaz. Wow. Naomi said, hey girl, you've been out in the sun too long. Picking all those grains, didn't have a proper, those white sun hats. I asked you, give me the name of the man that did this chesed. He said, Hashem ish ashani osati imo chesed, that I did for him, his name is Boaz. So the Talmud says what? Because the grain that Boaz gave her will be eaten up in a few days. Right? But the chesed, the mitzvah that Boaz got by giving her the grain, that's not eaten up in a few days. That remains Boaz's for eternity. So you give a check to a poor person, the check will be used up. It'll be gone. But the chesed that you did, that remains in your eternal bank account. So the rich guy who gives the poor guy a check, he should say, thank you for accepting. The check will be eaten up, but the mitzvah that I got by giving you the check, that remains in my eternal bank account forever and ever. Who taught us that? Ruth, a convert. Ruth taught us that. A convert. She used to be a Moabite go-go dancer. That's what the Talmud says. Moab made Las Vegas look like a kindergarten. And she became the grandmother. Couldn't God find a Beis Yaakov Madel? There are plenty of Beis Yaakov girls. A former go-go dancer from Moab, Ruth, to become the grandmother Mashiach. What's the message? That every person can turn his life around. Not just a Jew. I don't care where you were or what you did. It's now or never. As long as you're alive,
You can do it.
you can change. Where there's life, there's hope.
I always.
Every human being, even a Moabite, can become a convert. Not just a convert, but the grandmother. David, are you getting this? The grandmother of the Melech HaMashiach. God practiced Tzimtzum. God restricted and pulled into himself to make room for me. When I give to others, I'm also restricting my income, my time, my what? Everything by giving to others. But the paradox is that even though I'm doing that, I'm getting back in return. That's the paradox of life. By restricting my income, my time, my money, by giving to others, I'm actually giving to myself. That's the paradox. That shows God's love for us, right? You're giving away, but you're getting so much more in return. That's the ultimate paradox of life. Pretty interesting, huh, David?
For more of Rabbi Sprecher's teachings, visit rabbisprecher.com.